Welcome back to an extra special Halloween edition of Command West, the Commanders podcast, where we tackle the latest Washington football team news and answer the hard-hitting questions like, does Ron Rivera know the difference between a red flag and a yellow flag? We'll cover that and more. I'm Bradley.
I'm Tico Wells.
I'm Mario.
And I'm Donnie, also known as the commander of the opera is here.
And we got an extra special episode, including an extra special guest. Curtis is here to join us to talk about this past Eagles versus Commanders game. Give it up
Welcome,
for
Curtis. Welcome, Curtis.
Yeah, man.
Is that Curtis Mayfield?
Curtis Walker. Hey,
Can be on
Family
Halloween.
right
I'll be
here.
Curtis Mayfield. How about
Oh,
that?
I like that.
Sing us a few, would you, Curtis?
Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Curtis.
Well, born and raised in DC, still living in the DMV.
There you go.
Big time Commanders fan. Retired firefighter, paramedic, former special
fantastic.
education teacher, and just a all-out fan of the team.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
Love it.
Very nice.
Fit right
So-
in. Except you're not on the West Coast, so
Yeah,
you're a definite special guest for Command West.
there we go.
Absolutely.
West East, special
Absolutely.
East.
Very nice. So tonight's
And he's
episode, I
my-
think we're
And he's
gonna.
my cousin. You know,
And he's
there you go.
Tico's
And
cousin. There you
That's
go.
That's
Cousin in the
There
house.
you go.
Walker Wells
There you go.
connection.
So tonight's
Well,
episode,
Curtis.
we want to try to structure it a little bit, more concisely. So I think we
Let's do
should get
that.
started talking about. Should we start with the offense?
Hey, well, let's just
Sure.
say that that's as good a place as anything. You know,
I think that's a good place to start.
first
Look,
of
the
all,
offense
for those-
scored
for
31
those who
points.
watch this, yeah, hey, for those who watch this 10 years from now, we lost, y'all. We lost. What was the score? 38-31?
38-31.
Okay.
would be it.
So we
Yeah,
both times we played the Eagles, we scored what? 31 points.
31
We
points.
put up 31 points 2 times on the Eagles.
And both times we were
6-2.
ahead at halftime.
Yeah.
By the same score, I think. 17 to wasn't it 17-10 both
I
times?
thought it was 7-6 at halftime.
I think it was the exact same score.
Yeah.
Both game at half.
At half, yeah.
They came
We
about
were-
a little bit different. But,
we were ahead,
the
but
most important person or one of the most important, but I think the most important person on the offense is the quarterback. And I
Mhm.
have asked each of my fellow Command West hosts the question, what do we think about Sam Howell? But again, we have an extra special guest today.
Let's turn it over to
So
our
I
guest.
think I should ask you that question, Curtis. What do you think of Sam Howell 8 games into the season?
I like Sam, but it's kind of hard to determine, just what his potential is because as much as I like Sam, I can't stand the offensive line. And I think it's kind of hard to judge him right now because EB is still feeling his way as an offensive coordinator. You could see from the last, I don't know why it took until the Philadelphia game to kind of really hit on draws and screens and the quick game and to start feeding Terry McLaurin early because as Terry goes, this offense goes.
Mhm.
So right now, I like what I see. I would love to see him behind a competent offensive line and a more consistent game plan. I don't like them passing as much as they do,
Right.
but, so far, so good. His
Yeah.
typical ups and downs of a rookie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I agree with you. And it's funny because this game, he only got sacked once and he had some pressures, right? Our line let in some pressures, but like this game was like, wow, our line got shuffled around a little bit. Some pieces got put in different places and Sam Howell looked to be protected and he threw for almost 400 yards and four touchdowns.
He led the NFL in passing yards. But I agree with Curtis. They're passing almost too much. I wanted to see more passing this year, but there's a run game too that can be very effective, and I think it helps mix things up. And I would like to see a little bit more of that. To his credit, because I like Sam Howell too. I think he throws the ball downfield well. He sees downfield well. And sometimes he picks up some long plays, but boy, sometimes the plays take a while to develop too. There's all these long pass plays being executed. And
I can
Well,
say,
I
you
feel
know
like
what?
that's
When,
not as true in this game, right? Like I think that the game plan, like Curtis was saying, is finally catching up
was better.
to what this offense needs to be productive. Is the short game. I mean, especially in the first half. I mean, I thought that was the best game Eric Bieniemy's called all year.
I did
I
too.
agree.
I did too. And yet there were times when in the second half when we were still ahead that I felt like he was still trying to push the ball downfield, and I didn't think it was as necessary. It didn't, we weren't playing from behind at that point, So
I have to think this was the best performance from the offense that we have ever seen the entire year, and even more impressive than the win against Dallas last year. Okay, the reason is the guy was slinging the ball all over the place. He was getting the ball out quick. He was getting it out on the short routes to save himself. He threw it away when he had to most of the time. He only threw one INT. He went up against the toughest D line in the division, if not the entire league, sort of according to the stats, right? But somehow the alignment of the matchups works out so good when we get with them. And it could be different personnel, because it obviously is. It's not always the same guy. Don't get me wrong, the O-line played great, but this was one time out of 8 games. That's not enough, right? So I'm just thinking, I think offensively, Sam is in the great position right now, because he shows what he can do under the toughest circumstances. He rises. What's the key? We have to beat a team like Philly to get into the playoffs, right? That's what it's going to come down to.
absolutely.
San Francisco, who else? There's not too many other teams that are really threatening.
I mean, we could get into the playoffs without beating Philly or San Francisco.
But I
But
was
we
about
haven't
to,
won one division game.
I was about
Advancing
to-
through the playoffs is a different story.
I
Yeah,
was about to say that.
How many division wins have we had? None.
0.
You can't move into the playoffs if you don't get one of those.
That's true. I keep harping that we can lose to Philly twice. We can lose to Dallas twice. What we need to do is beat the bad teams, and we haven't
Right.
done that this season.
And we haven't
Right.
done that. Now we're
Because if-
losing defensive people on the sides. Okay, it's fine. It's worth it for the trades. We know it's going to be worth it.
If all we did was beat the bad teams this year, we'd be 5-3, and that's not so bad.
Yeah, but does the team right now with what Josh Harris is doing, right? Harris, I always say it out, Josh Allen. It's like, no, we're not talking about the
Josh
quarterback.
Harris.
Josh Harris, he's making a decision now to rebuild, right? I mean, this is a move to rebuild. So do they really care about this year as a whole? We'll get more picks if we fucking crash and burn all the way in.
Yeah,
Nobody
agreed.
throws it in. Like, what are we going to do?
I think let's hold that thought, because I think we want to get to the trades that happened today a little bit later on in the show. There is a lot to talk about in the show, but I love your point, Eddie, and I think it's worth
I know
worth
it's too
discussing.
many stuff, and
It's so much stuff.
I go off on tangents. I'm a tag.
It's okay. It's okay. We were gonna stick with a structure, and I don't know.
Yeah,
Bradley.
I mean, we're still chatting about the offense, but
Okay.
I think that we're getting kind of, there is something to mention about how it feels. I got to give credit to the Eagles, right? The Eagles are phenomenal. They seem to just be making plays all over the field. I mean, and making their quarterback right. AJ Brown, that pass, Benjamin St.
Some of his
Juste is
catches.
all over him, and
Mhm.
in great position, and so was Emmanuel Forbes. And on the only way that AJ Brown can catch that is if it's outside and he makes a one-handed catch. And what do you know?
That's what he did.
That's a miracle of that throw and the miracle of that man who caught it. That guy, it was the AJ Brown fucking show.
Yeah.
He's one of the best in the league, if not the best. I mean, he's right up there.
AJ reminded me of T.O. on Sunday. I said, wow, he's got the size, he's got the speed, and man.
Is he not better than him already, or no?
No.
Statistically speaking,
no.
But what my point was going to be was
he's coming along though. He's got a ways to go before he's a Hall of Famer, but he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the dog in him. you know, and
He needs a Mario Kart.
yeah, man.
He has
Yeah,
a
man.
he has a
But you know what?
catch rate.
We beat them statistically, except for scoring.
The one
Obviously.
statistic that
And
matters.
the biggest statistic, we keep saying this, is you can have everything else. We actually Sam Howell ran for more yards than him. He threw for more yards than him. Took less sacks. He only took 1 sack, but that was for 9 yards.
And
We got
first
to
time.
Jalen Hurts 2 times for 4 yards. But here's the kicker: the third quarter we did not score.
Yep.
So we didn't score since the second quarter, when we had him up 17-10, just like the last game.
But here's something interesting though about that. Philly drove within striking distance and fumbled the ball twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the final score is a little misleading.
Mhm.
That little tush push fumble was Jalen Hurts, dropping the ball.
Screwing up.
They theoretically could have scored 50 points on us.
Yeah.
I know.
So at what point do you, as a defensive coordinator, now AJ Brown is their go-to guy, at what point do you schematically do something different in what you're doing? Because
Yeah,
obviously it's not working. It's
and
not working
see,
what you're doing.
The thing about it is, everybody forgets about Devontae Smith because AJ is so prolific. But Devontae had just about 100 yards himself. He had 99 yards. And again, one of those controversial catches, he had another one of those just like in the first game. But Devontae, he had 7. He was 7 for 99 yards, 7 receptions. That's a lot. That's a lot that we gave up. They gave up a lot too. Jamison Crowder, 95 yards.
Love seeing
I
Jameson get
loved
into
what
that
he
game
did
the
in
way
this
he did.
game.
Yeah.
I loved what he did in this game. Best pick that we had. What was he?
Yeah.
A fifth round trade or something level? Something like that.
I don't know when he came to. When did he
He
come
came
to the
back
team?
to us.
We just picked him up in like the second or third week of the season or something.
Yeah, so we
after-
picked
'cause
him
we'd
up
never
at a
played him.
bargain. I think we picked him up at a bargain coming back.
Oh yeah,
We
definitely.
didn't have to trade anything for him. He was on waivers.
He was
good
available.
So that's what you call
But
it.
that was the
Cheap
first thing
date.
I just love seeing Jameson back in the burgundy and gold.
Mhm.
But then seeing
Yeah.
him make the kind of contributions that he made this week and in the kick return a couple of weeks earlier.
He's thinking maybe he can get on San Francisco and go to the Super Bowl too.
Oh man. Oh man.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like we're kind of leading into. Curtis had just mentioned the
defense.
defensive coordinator, and Tico, you were mentioning some of the coaching, or specifically the controversial catch. So maybe this might be an opportunity to talk about some of the coaching, because we already kind of mentioned Eric Bieniemy. I said that I thought that this was his best game. However, I do want to mention something about Eric Bieniemy that I thought there were 2 turning points in this game, and they were both coaching fumbles, if you will. And number 1 was on Eric Bieniemy. And I think although he played coached an awesome game, there was a 4th and 1 play call that I thought was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
Where they line up in empty, which means that they have an empty backfield and it's just Sam Howell back there. That means that on a 4th and 1 play, the defense knows you're not running the
No
ball.
chance of a run. Yeah.
So that means
Right.
that instantly changes how the defense plays that play. And then you throw the ball, and actually the concept wasn't terrible, but I just think that taking a part out of the defensive scheme on a 4th and 1 is unacceptable to me.
I don't like lateral plays on a 4th and 1. I'm sorry. It's a pickoff looking to happen.
Now,
Against
that
teams
wasn't
like
the play
that.
when Terry dropped the ball, was it?
That was not, no.
That was towards
Because
the
Terry
end.
dropped a couple
Yes.
Twice right at the end.
Terry-like
Two.
Right.
drops.
Yep.
Yeah, he dropped
Yep.
up. Yeah.
Was I thinking of
Yep.
the other one? Is that what it was?
But the back to the empty backfield. Not only don't I like the empty backfield, it's a great opportunity if you want to pass it to do a little play action pass, because it is one of those. Most teams are going to try and run for that 1 yard.
Yes.
So if you want to catch them off guard, then Yeah, fake somebody into the line, you
Yeah.
know, draw
And-
draw the linebackers in.
And that was at the end of the second quarter, or nearing the end of the second quarter.
Mhm.
And we were up 14-3. If we score a touchdown, 21-3, it would have been the end. We would have gone into halftime 21-3. That is very different than going in 17-10.
Oh, yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think that
and-
that changed a lot of momentum right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
did we ever find out if it was a catch or not?
Okay, so great,
was
great
called-
bringing that up, Eddie.
A
That is
good
the next.
segue.
That is the next changing point of that game. Was the
Right.
4th and 7 play with Devontae Smith drop the ball, and we can go ahead and put that screenshot up on the screen right now. I have
Okay.
that all ready for you because
Great.
I went back and I watched this
Take a
play
look.
happen because all of the BS that Ron has been spilling, and I'm not blaming the refs on this one. There's something else that I want to talk about the refs. That's later.
There's something seriously wrong with Rivera.
There was the ball hit the ground, right? And the play, they ran up and got a playoff really fast, right?
Yeah.
I counted. They had they snapped the ball with 23 seconds left on the play clock. The play clock is 40 seconds. That means they had 17 seconds. That is plenty of time.
That's a friggin' eternity.
That's so long in the NFL to get to be able to see that ball is on the ground. Your entire sideline is screaming, no catch, no catch. Benjamin St. Juste says no catch, no catch. Not making that call is not only game altering, it's also season altering because now your players know that you don't trust them.
Right.
Ron Rivera does not trust his defensive players. That's what that tells
Mhm.
them.
So he called it, said it was on
Everybody's
the ground.
saying that's a no catch, no catch, and he doesn't throw that flag. It's showing the players that you don't care what they have to say, that you don't trust.
How many timeouts did we have at the time?
I think
all three.
he
Right.
he said he was conscious of how many timeouts he had left and how valuable they would be at the end.
That
of
was in the
quarter.
third quarter.
But
And
that's
they
been
scored 2 plays later.
that's been the epitome of Ron Rivera to me.
Yeah.
That I the moments, the crucial moments of games where the game swings,
Yeah,
he either doesn't make a decision or he has no clue of what the decision should be because immediately he should have thrown the flag.
Yeah.
The players are jumping up and down, screaming immediately, and then you saw that Philly rushed up to the ball. So hello,
Right. That's another clue, right?
there's a clue.
Philly,
since
Philly,
it's-
Philly
wait, since-
practices that too.
Since it's Halloween, here this is my Ron Rivera.
That's
sideline.
it. That's it.
That's
You
what
gotta
he
do his
does.
part, Curtis.
And,
You gotta
and
do his
that's him
part.
on the sideline, and it's kind of his outlook across the,
That's it.
this unawareness. Last year he made the comment about Sam Howell, like, oh, if we had known he was this good, like, how do you
Or that
not
he didn't know that we could be eliminated out of the playoff
Or
race.
he didn't, right?
Incredible.
How do you not know these things?
Yeah.
Like he's
Okay,
got,
okay,
got
this
this
is-
kickback attitude about
This is where I come in
the
with
game.
the
The
positive.
positive.
The positive.
okay.
can you do it in your best 50 Cent accent?
No, man, I can't do 50 Cent. But 50 Cent, he always talks like this, man. Anyway.
He's kind of
You
boring.
said you couldn't do it.
It
I
won't
know,
stop
and
you
then I
from
thought
trying
about
though.
but
Back
when
in
you
the
see a
blank.
guy in practice and people don't have full pads on, they don't have full gear on, and you've been going with Taylor Heineke and you've been going with, oh boy, the redhead.
Carson.
Carson
Carson
Wentz.
Wentz.
Wentz. Anyway,
Mm.
you're talking about a third stringer at that point with no experience, who was not a first round draft choice. And yeah, you see these guys in practice, but do you giving them the trust? It took that last game for everybody to go, oh, look at what we got over here. Where y'all been hiding him? So
How could
there's a lot of pieces that go in. You're paying Carson Wentz, you're paying, Taylor Heineke, and then you got this kid on the side. They're not going to just give the keys to the kingdom to a Brock Purdy unless it's an emergency. They're not going to give the keys to the kingdom to a Sam Howell unless it's an emergency. And we've been in an emergency state we were in an emergency state last year.
Mhm.
But he does have keys to the house, and everybody knows what Sam could do. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be there.
I'm not.
I mean, I get your point, but
I'm not going to disagree with you, Tico, because I think that that's a good point. All of that goes into it. But my problem is, and I think this is what Curtis was saying, is he just needs to shut his mouth sometimes. He
exactly.
says too much. Why are you
Mhm.
admitting that? Don't admit that. You know, just be behind closed doors. Damn, we didn't know we had a kid like this. Just why are you
And
saying
it could
that?
have been, you know, and some of these guys, some guys are not
But he
good
does that all the
comedians.
time, too.
They're not good. He's not a good comedian. Let's
Oh,
no.
he's
leave it-
terrible.
Not very
He's
good
not
off
good
the
in front of
cuff,
the
is he?
press. Yeah.
No, everybody can't beat Eddie.
Yeah. Well, I also think that when you look at it as a whole, like again, Curtis said it's a microcosm. I fully agree. It's all of Ron. And when you look at it under a microscope, you know, some things here and there go, oh, he didn't know about Sam. That's a little, and then when you're at the end, right? This is the end of Ron Rivera. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
When you're at the end, you start to look at the just malpractice that he has done throughout our entire 5 years of him basically running this organization, because again, Dan Snyder gave him the reins. He was like, oh, obviously, you know, he always has his little grubby hands and anything, but
Grubby
but
little.
when you look at it all together, it's like, wow, you know, the fact that he hasn't drafted one Pro Bowler his entire career, the fact that we have 6 first round picks on the defense and 1 on the offense, and the defense is ranked 31st in the league right now. Like there's a whole, just when you look at everything together, the fact that he's calling out Eric Bieniemy and saying that players are having problems with him, that, you know how bad that looks on him, on like, for no, you know, just all together, there's so much that is like the fact that Jamison Crowder is our best free agent signing. He's over 30 years old.
Right.
Is that not crazy to you? Like, that's it right there. And so you just look at it all together and you're like, wow, he was really bad. But to Tico's point, a couple of weeks ago, culture. And he changed the culture in Washington, and that's what we can be grateful for.
Always.
I'll give you another one.
Yeah,
I'll give you another one. If you're going to, okay, let's say you missed the boat on Sam Howell. Somehow he didn't show you anything during practice last year. You decided this offseason you were going to invest in him.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be your quarterback. Wouldn't you think that you would put everything you had into an offensive line that is competent, not scraps? How can you truly evaluate what my issue with Rivera is? The things that he doesn't make sense with the things and it doesn't match up what he says. So if you're going to go into the season and you're going to try to put Sam Howell in the best position to win, you would think you would fortify that offensive line.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a disaster. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't match.
But what if they were
Okay,
taking it?
let me
That's a
come
good
in
point,
right-
though. But I was
Can I come in
going
real quick,
to
Eddie?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
They were talking about this with San Francisco today on Speak, and you know, a Trent Williams that we had, I didn't really get why right out of college they were calling him one of the best offensive. I mean, almost from the beginning, his rookie year, people were saying how great Trent Williams was, and when he leaves, not only is there a hole left where he used to stand, but in that locker room, you miss that leadership too. And these guys don't grow on trees. Ask Deion Sanders right now. That's his Achilles heel. He doesn't have an offensive line. And when people get these great offensive linemen, you know, they hold on to them as best they can because like Philly's got an offensive line.
Yeah, they're stacked.
I
on both
totally
sides of the
agree.
line.
Chico, I totally agree about Trent Williams, but the only thing I say about Trent Williams is he was constantly hurt too. So when you go back in the locker room and you say, oh man, look at that great friggin' wall of depth that he held on that front line, he was in the rehab constantly. He was like off the field. We never really got a chance to see what he could do. I still went Pro Bowl, but it was for like what, 5-6 games a year? He was always hurt.
I mean,
He hurt again when he went away.
Part of it was because they had to
cancer.
double team, and you know, they had to it almost took 2 men just to knock him down.
You know what it was? He was the foundation of the anchor of one of the sides of the pillars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you need like these two strong linemen before they get to the tackles that just kind of hold their ground and just stay there. Like we had 4 showboat guys in the defensive line, and they're all trying to make sacks to be the hero. We said this in like week 2, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
We talked about this.
I
last
still
week,
think
too.
there was so much
Not
that they
playing
wanted
together.
to do just for their own individual selves that they never had the glue to figure out how to work as a cohesive
and
defensive line.
And who is that on?
That's on the defensive
coaching.
coach. That's
I got to go to the
Rivera?
coaching. Yeah, like
He's the
you know,
defensive
that's
lineman.
that's what players are going to do. They're going to ball out, right? Big
Yeah.
star players like that, they're going to ball out and do everything they can to get a sack. Somebody's got to look at that and go, "Let me teach you guys how to pull this together and work as a team."
But also,
anchor like
and
Trent
to my
Williams in the
point,
corner.
yeah, to my point last week is maybe don't buy 4-star players on the D line because at a certain point you need someone to anchor, like Eddie's saying. You need someone to sit there and make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket, right? If we have 4 guys all going for the quarterback, he might slip through. That's just kind of what we've been seeing.
Right.
But I think that's a great point, Curtis, about the O-line. And to Donnie's point, to Dad's point, it's also like Sam Howell is number 1 in dropbacks this season. If you're going to evaluate a quarterback, if you're going to see what you got, why not lean on the run game a little bit? Why not lean on the short passing a little bit? That's also coaching,
Yeah.
And especially because you haven't made those moves at O-line. Like you haven't built the O-line. Okay, let's drop back Sam Howell the most in the entire league. Right. Oh, he's a rookie. Oh, he's getting sacked 40 times.
You know what he's getting though? But Bradley, what he's getting though, he's getting the best training possible. He's playing with the worst odds. He's playing with an offensive line that doesn't know that they don't need 3 guys to block 1 guy.
That might have
You know what I
been
mean?
a good
Like
tactic like 40 years ago, but
no, but you never know. Like, how could that be a bad thing? The guy's playing under the worst circumstances, and he's putting up numbers right there with Sam Purdy.
No, that shows his guts.
Sam
But
Purdy,
if he gets hurt, that's how it's a bad thing. He's getting hit. He's getting hit so many times that
we've seen that formula with David Carr. He's out of the league.
There you RG3.
RG3.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But we haven't even said Jack Del Rio's name yet. And we've talked about the other 2.
They're all going. They're all going.
I mean, I mentioned it. We are the 31st ranked defense in the league. I think that this is, and this might be a hot take, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's that hot. I think that our defensive unit is the most disappointing unit this season out of maybe the Giants offense is up there because, there were hopes that they were going to be good, but in terms of like boom or bust
across the NFL,
Giants busting is like, they're the freaking Giants. But like our defense with all of the talent, all the 1st round picks being the 2nd worst in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to evaluate that because, there have been other clubs that have given up nearly about the same amount of yards, like the Broncos and the Chargers.
I only measure it by when we go up against teams like Philly. That's what I measure it against because that's what matters. It doesn't matter against anybody else.
But what Bradley's saying is the expectation because of the talent that was there. When you heard people talk about our defense preseason, they were like, watch out for Washington. They got some hot. Yeah, they're right. Exactly.
I said it. I said top 5 in our first episode.
And they all want the gold medal, but sometimes you have to take the bronze. Okay. That's the problem.
What's Cleveland's record? Because Cleveland supposedly has given up the least amount of yards. And
they beat the Niners.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, right.
Cleveland, that's a tough division. That AFC North, that's other than the Ravens are 6-2. Everybody else is 4-3. Everybody's got a winning record, and the Bengals are at the bottom. But Cleveland's 4-3 on the slide.
And they don't have a
that defense of Cleveland.
Next 3 weeks are very transitional weeks.
And their best player tore his freaking ACL in like the second
Right. Right.
on the offense.
Wow. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about
Okay.
coaching. We've talked a lot about offense. Should we talk about the defense a little bit? I mean, we mentioned it with Jack Del Rio, but like, let's get into the nitty gritty. Obviously, there's some things that happened that after the game that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Right. Right.
But D line, linebackers, DBs, what do we see?
I don't see that one leader dog. I'm always looking for that leader dog,
Mm.
and I can't identify that person.
Who's the defensive
And
captain?
I think Jonathan Allen is kind of the
Yeah.
guy, but I don't know if his game is strong enough for him to command, for
I
lack
don't
of
think it has to
words.
be about the game. I think it has to be about the personality. I think it should have been Chase.
I was going to say
But-
Chase has the personality for it. Obviously.
But I don't know if he's
not
got
going
enough
forward.
smarts to make decisions on the fly if he had to.
Well, I don't know. I don't
Cam
know
Curl?
about
I
all
don't
that.
know.
I just
Yeah.
he just hasn't had the kind of career yet that we expected. And he's
You need that Baltimore Raven in there. What's his name?
Ray Lewis.
You need a Ray Lewis. We
everybody
talked
needs a
about
Ray
that
Lewis.
last week or the week before.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. That's
Let's see
part of the
them again.
glue. We're talking
Everybody,
about glue.
Ray Lewis doesn't just grow on trees,
No,
No, that's for sure.
That's
no. So
Michael
we're looking
Irvin.
for those little diamonds that
Dick
rule
Butkus,
Dick
who
keep
Butkus.
everybody
died
together.
the day we were playing the Bears. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that something?
But what do you think of this take? Okay, guys, let me ask you this. This is what
I'm
I'm saying.
excited for. I'm excited for this one.
We actually no gimmick here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we last week we talked about how the Giants had some bunch of street guys playing offensive line and they kicked our ass, right? And we had supposedly the best defensive line. What happened? It was a matchup nightmare and a defensive play calling that just blitzed us to shit and they got us. But now it's flipped. This week, we're like the underdog, right? We are the ones that have the bad offensive line, and they were supposed to be the big defensive line, and we flipped it on them. We played the best O-line that we ever could. Was it just the fact that our guys suck? Because that's all you hear all over the media. Our O-line sucks. Can't believe they can't protect. They protected Sam to only one sack this week against
They
the
did.
toughest defense.
They did.
I don't understand how you could say that. It's about the matchups. It has nothing to do about the team ranking or where they are in the standings or what their record is. It
But
never does.
also though, but EB protected Sam and Sam
Yes.
protected Sam.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the game
So,
plan, with the
It
game
has
plan.
to. It goes into game planning. It goes into game planning. You got to get the ball out of your hand. You got to call plays that gets the ball out of his hand, and then you have to run the ball more. You have to run the ball more. I don't care how advanced we get. You have to run the ball more.
We
you
don't
know,
have
you
we don't
should-
have a running game.
But
We
don't you
don't
think they
tr-
make those decisions? They're going to make those decisions on quarter one based on what they think the defense is going to do. They try to run it, it doesn't work, and then they go to the air.
You
This
know
thing,
what-
I think we did it great. The first 2 quarters, we went ballistic. We started on passes on first down, short 10-yarders. We
Yeah.
got 8-yarders, 7-yarders. We had nothing to do on third down. It was easy. And then we ran when we had to. I think we ran the way we did, but it was probably 75-25. Could have been more 65-40, but
Mhm.
when you're moving the ball downfield and you're scoring, that's the enemy attack. It's offensive and it's aerial.
Right.
You know what
Staying ahead
I-
of the chains.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I found that was interesting? It's actually it's cool doing this podcast because I feel like I'm learning a lot more about football and the intricacies and it's a lot more complicated than it looks like when you're just watching the game
Right.
and you kind of don't know what you're talking about, or looking at. Is the changes on the O-line where we added Chris Paul in place of Sidney Charles to guard, and we added Tyler Larson in place of Nick Gates at center. Those 2 guys are significantly bigger than the 2 guys we got rid of. And there are positive and negatives to having a smaller, shiftier, speedier O-lineman and bigger, heavier O-lineman. And the
Get in the
shiftier,
way
the,
type of
the
guys.
smaller ones are better in the run game, better for quarterbacks that kind of move around in the pocket. And the bigger
Exactly.
dudes are better for guys who are sitting in the pocket and pocket
Mhm,
passers and
mhm.
guys that need a clean pocket to be able to pass. And it's just interesting to be like, oh man, like, and then we saw Sam perform really good because he had a cleaner pocket because
Mhm.
there are bigger guys in front of him. Like there's just small things
Yeah.
that we don't really think about. Oh, maybe that's making a big difference. Is maybe Nick Gates isn't terrible, right? Although he had a pretty bad performance. Maybe he's just in the wrong scheme, which
Mm.
I talked about last week, is our coaching staff doesn't know how to pick guys or doesn't know how to play around the guys that they pick.
Yeah.
And they also don't pick the right guys for the scheme, right? I have the biggest complaint with Emmanuel Forbes this week, as we're talking about Jack Del Rio, because the fact that he was picked, right, to be this ball hawking corner, to go out and make plays, and then we put him there and say, don't let anybody get past you. You're not going to have help over the top. And then he tries to get aggressive, gets beat.
Gets burned.
No one's helping him over the top. Then they say, no, you can't do that anymore. Sit down, sit, you know, sit back in coverage. He's a small dude. He's not going to be good at that. And then they go, fuck you, bench him. They bench him for a week, for 2 weeks, and then say, hey, you know who you just got your ass beat by? AJ Brown.
Go back in there. Go back and play him again.
And get some confidence against the second best receiver in the league. That is what, all the blunders that Ron Rivera has had, which makes me crazy. That makes me the most angry, because you see a young player lose
Right.
confidence. You see a young player losing the love for the game, and it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
sad.
Yep.
Not
Good.
just for
Let
the
them do what
not
they're
just
good.
for the
Let them
team,
do what they're good at.
for the person, for the
Yep.
player. And when it's a player, when you're ruining ruining is a harsh word. When you're making a player like question himself on a personal standpoint,
Mhm.
that's when I take issue to where it's like I'm angry now. You know what I mean? Like,
and
that
Bradley,
makes me
Bradley, check this out.
angry.
If you're the type of player who's going to allow anybody, coaches or whoever, to take your heart, to take your confidence, you don't belong in the NFL starting. You got to have skin that's tough. You got to be able to take criticism. You got to be able to take whatever is thrown at you and still come out on top. But a question: Who was the center on Sunday? Was it Tyler Larson or Nick Gates?
Tyler Larson.
What was Nick Gates hurt, or they just decided to switch
No,
him up?
he got benched.
They benched him.
He got
They
benched.
benched him.
So they're still fun. They're still. I mean, all of these guys are except for Leno and who was the other guy that Sam Cosmi. We got guys that have been thrown in here. Chris Paul wasn't there. Nick Gates wasn't there last year. So these guys haven't even played together that much. But I will say the penalties seem to have quieted down in this last game. What'd you guys think about the penalties? I thought we did a better job of eliminating some of those crazy penalties.
Yeah.
Wasn't as bad as the week before.
Yeah.
Can't get any worse than the week before.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, and I think that when we talk about the referees, I don't love to blame the referees. That's not what I like to do. I'm not going to in this game. On the penalty side, the penalties, there's going to be bad calls in every single game.
You
As
can't.
long
Yeah,
as
you cannot rely on the refs to win the game for you.
No. But there is one play that I will talk about, and it's a Jahan Dotson play.
Not that play.
It's hard to overlook it.
Because that play is not a bad call. It's what it is it's a shady call. When it's a bad call, I'll live with it, because there's bad calls that help different teams. This play is shady, man. I mean, like, you see the line judges holding up first down, the chains are moving, a player on the Eagles goes down, if they hadn't gone down, the clock would have ran until the 2-minute warning. Guess what the 2-minute warning is? It counts as a play. Once the 2-minute warning happens, that the last play that happened stands.
Right.
Okay. And then New York interferes before the 2-minute warning and says that that's not a catch.
Philly.
That's not allowed.
Philly, you mean?
It's not allowed.
No, New York,
Oh, you're talking about the New York
New
game?
York NFL in New York
Oh,
chimes in.
Mhm.
To the
you meant
referees.
My
the,
apologies.
okay.
So
Right.
that is not allowed unless it's past the 2-minute warning, and then it will be an automatic review. And so then they call it a no catch on the field, which is that what I have a problem with, because even if Nick Sirianni wanted to challenge that play, which he should have, because that ball hits the ground, I don't think that play, because then we challenge it on the no catch and it's not confirmed, it stands, which means that they don't have conclusive evidence to overturn it. Confirmed is it's confirmed it was no catch.
Right.
Stands means could have been a catch, could
We
have
didn't see
not.
enough.
We're not going to enter. And if
Right.
it's called a catch on the field, which it originally was, and until there was an Eagle injury, then they reversed it. If it's called a catch on the field, I think that play stands.
That stands as well. Yeah. That stands.
Either
as
Oh, I
that
well.
didn't-
or he
so-
knew a guy. I think he knew a guy.
Yeah, he knew a guy. He knew a guy. So Bradley, you're saying if they say it stands, then that means we don't have conclusive evidence.
Yes.
Right.
If it's confirmed, then they have.
It was conclusive.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Is that in the rule book?
That is.
Oh, look at you.
Is that the
look
way
at
it looks
you.
in the cookbook?
Look at you.
So I think we're starting to wrap up our recap of Philly. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? Curtis, do you have any final thoughts on this Philly game? Defense, offense, coaching, refs, the whole nine?
You know, to me, it's just more of the same.
Mm.
And
Agree.
it kind of sums up this whole entire journey we've been on with Rivera. You know, it just reminds me of the fact that Snyder is the one that brought him in here.
Yep.
And it's still a little stench of Snyder around. You know,
It's a good way to put
Smells
it.
something.
you know, so hopefully with the changes that they made today,
Mhm.
you know, it's a sign that the writing is on the wall, that we have some grown-ups in the building. We're going to make some football decisions and give us something to root for, because you get sick of the same thing. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of felt the whole entire game. I said, they're going to do something to blow this thing.
Yeah.
I felt
Never
that way, too.
comfortable, never comfortable, never
Mhm.
comfortable.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it played. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get it together. Hopefully on the right track to, you know, we got 5 picks in the first 3 rounds now, and
Yep.
we got 3 in the first 50.
Yeah.
So hopefully we
Yeah.
can get some grown-ups in there that can change this thing around, so we have, you know, something to root for finally.
I think that tell me how you feel, or everybody, but I'm talking specifically to Curtis right now. Is I actually this game was a fun game to watch. I'm not gonna lie. Like I enjoyed this game, which the Giants game I didn't enjoy, the Bears game I didn't enjoy. Those were terrible. But this was a fun game. We looked at, we had a spark. But I do feel similarly, like I just knew that at some point we were gonna blow this game. But it felt like when I highlighted those 2 turning moments for me, and other people may feel differently, but for me, there were big coaching decisions. And I felt at the end of this game, obviously I was disappointed that we lost, but I felt, and especially after this week, seeing that we have a owner who actually is gonna make some changes, like that's very evident right now. I felt this sense of hope, like, Tico was saying it's hard to find, it's like dating, right? You spend a lot of time dating somebody and then you break up with someone, and then finding someone new is kind of a spin of the roulette wheel.
Dating?
but-
I'm married 35 years. What are you talking about?
What is that?
30.
But it gave me a sense of hope, like there is a lot of talent on this field, talent enough to beat Philly. We can beat Philly. I mean, that we've played them really hard twice. And in my opinion, both those games were won and lost on the coaching side of things. Obviously, there's players. There are things that happen. Terry drops 2 balls. Sam throws an interception. There's things that happen in the game. Philly fumbled twice. The mistakes happen in a game. But when your coaching staff is making the right decision on the on the sideline, it makes you feel more comfortable. Where maybe if we're up 24-17 in the fourth quarter, you may feel a little bit more comfortable saying, we can win this game. We're going to go down, we're going to score, and we're going to put this game away, And I did feel a sense of hope saying, we can play with the best of the best. We need better people in charge. And it feels like we're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Knock on
I
wood.
agree.
Yeah, it's all in how you see it. If half empty, half full. You got to look at the receptions. Jahan Dotson getting involved. He could be a number 1 somewhere. He really could. He really could.
He definitely
He's
had
that
his
good.
breakout of this year for sure.
And I felt very confident that Logan Thomas, we have a tight end.
You mean hurdling?
I
Right.
forgot about that. I just watched
The
that
hurtling
replay.
Logan
I was
That was
Thomas.
pretty
was
sweet. That was pretty sweet.
That was
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm 6'5". I'm just going to jump over you.
And think about it. The Eagles, okay, they had a coaching change with Doug Peterson a couple of years ago, right? But they were in the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. That culture, that winning culture, even though they let the coach go, a spirit was there. A spirit of winning was there. And they got back in the Super Bowl last year. That's who we played. We played the energy of Philadelphia. And when you think about it, is our quarterback better than Jalen Hurts?
Maybe.
Maybe? Really?
We'll see.
You see
But-
something that I don't. What are you seeing?
Who has more interceptions this year? Who has more touchdowns? Who has more yards?
Who has more
Who has
wins?
who has more team wins?
That shuts it all up right there.
Yeah.
I have something.
Yeah.
If you took Jalen Hurts and you put him behind the Commanders' offensive line,
Mhm.
and you put Sam Howell behind Philadelphia's offensive line, who would have had better numbers?
I would say Howell.
Yeah. First of all, though, Jalen Hurts won't come to Washington.
Well, and the other
I don't want him. I
the
want
other
Sam.
perspective, the other
Let's do a
perspective, Curtis,
realistic
is
idea here.
if Washington had Philly's coaching staff and Philly had Washington's coaching
Right.
staff, who
And they
would
lived in a
look like
different
the better
zip
quarterback
code.
right now?
Right.
So I think there's a lot more. There's a lot more to winning the games than just that
Yes.
quarterback. Than
I-
saying, well,
Right.
clearly he's the best quarterback because they've won the most games. There's a lot that goes into that.
The offense,
that
the
mix.
quarterback gets too much credit and too much blame.
Yes.
Eh,
I
Yeah.
think that
I would take
this
their
year,
offensive line any day.
Hold on.
Jeez.
This looks like to me like the perfect analogy. Okay.
Okay.
right.
All right.
Years ago, this horrible thing happened. Washington developed this cancerous growth. Daniel Snyder just infested the body of Washington. And now it's spread out into the lymph nodes. It's all over the body. It's in the organs. We've dissected the tumor. We've extracted it with surgical care. It's gone. But we still have remnants of the cancer. So we're going through chemo. We're basically looking at how do we rebuild this. So Josh Harris comes in, he's got all the money, he's got all the smarts, supposedly. I think he's going to put some good people in place. We're going to rebuild the defense and the offense from the pillars, okay? The strength of some solid guys, both sides of the field, in the trenches. We saw, what did we win that made us play well against Philly? We played well in the trenches. You can look at all the fucking passes and you can look at all the shit, but the offensive line did what it was supposed to, and Sam did what he was supposed to, and the defensive line, to the extent, did what they could. If anything, that was our worst display as a defense, because we had a chances, like you said, to shut this fucking thing down,
Mhm.
and we didn't shut it down when we had opportunities. That's on coaching, it's on Rivera, it's on Bieniemy, it's on all of them. It's on the whole team as a glue. There's no glue. So they're going to change the glue, which is like a blood transfusion. They're going to come in. It's going to take 3 to 5 years. I'm sorry, it's going to take that long.
Yeah.
But my friend told me the other day, he goes, I'm sorry, but I don't think Sam's your guy. Harry said it. My friend Todd, who's a Dallas fan, we don't even can't have him on. I just don't want. Will not allow any Dallas fans on the page. But you see what I'm saying? Like my whole feeling is that
Sam has been one of the best that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
and I think he's the best guy for
in a
the
long time.
He's the best for
overall.
us that we've ever seen. But whether or not the new regime with the new coaching staff, which has to come in, the coaching staff's going to come in and they're going to have their own team, just like any other organization.
Well, we're assuming that they're going to get rid of Ron Rivera.
That's no longer an assumption.
Yeah.
That's a slam
What
dunk.
happened today?
I mean, it's not a
Go ahead.
foregone conclusion. The owners haven't
Yeah, it
come
is.
out and said that, if this season gets turned around and we have a winning season, it would be ignorant to me unless we got some amazing replacement for him. These coaches don't come along as easy as people think either. People think you just come in and become Kyle Shanahan.
We're not gonna
If
get.
we win the
playoffs,
Super
so
Bowl,
we're
I
not-
would still be surprised if we didn't get Ron Rivera. But this is a perfect opportunity for us to move to our next segment,
Sure.
commanding attention.
Yeah.
Because I think we're talking management, we're talking some things that happened today. And I think we should talk about what's commanding our attention.
Curtis, you want to hang with us? Or you?
Sure, I'm here.
I know
I'm-
you're an East Coast guy, so it's later for you. But if you're
I'm having fun.
hanging
I'm
in,
having
we're-
fun.
All right, cool.
Good. That's what we like.
Cool. Well, why
Okay.
don't you, because you're our special guest, why don't you
There you
tell
go.
us what happened today?
Well, first, Montez Sweat, no longer with us, traded to Chicago. And then that was followed up with Chase Young, number 99,
Biggies.
being traded out to San Francisco. And what's interesting about it is you would have thought that Chase Young would have commanded more,
Yeah.
in
thought
a,
the same
in a
thing.
trade.
Sadness.
But
Yeah.
I think that kind of gives you the narrative, the national narrative
Yeah.
on really what's going on and the uncertainty with Chase Young and what you get.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that there's a little bit of oh, by the way, my Halloween costume is a Washington football team member.
Oh, you're acting
which,
like you were. Oh, I see.
which Young is no longer. So there you go.
That's
So it's
true.
just a
right.
costume now.
It's just a costume now, exactly. So I think that that's a good point, Curtis, because I think that there is a lot of speculation. I think that some of the things that he has said in the media has maybe rubbed some people the wrong way. Some of the things that Ron has said about him, which again, dude, shut your mouth, but there have been some kind of some tension building up in Washington with the coaching staff and Chase. And then obviously a major knee surgery
Injury,
is,
yeah.
Is also something that I thought probably brought his stock down a little bit.
Yeah, it's you look at it. We got a second round pick for Montez,
An early second round,
but a
too.
high second round
Yeah.
pick. Now we get a third round pick for Chase, and it's going to be a low third round pick, right? Because
Well,
Yeah.
we don't actually know that to be the
We
case
don't?
because it's a excuse me,
conditional.
compensatory. Thank you.
Oh, compensatory.
Compensatory pick of San Francisco. So I actually don't know whose it is. it
Oh,
could
I
be
see.
somebody
It's not
else's.
their own. Oh, it's not their own. Okay,
It's not
gotcha.
their
Okay.
own third round pick.
Oh, I
So,
didn't know that. Okay, that helps. That might help a
You
little.
know what I
We'll
find?
see that.
You know what's commanding my attention?
What's that?
Montez Sweat goes to Chicago,
Mhm.
and they're a bigger mess than we are.
At
And
least
we
That's
lost
it's
bad
him.
for him. I feel sad for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I don't like where he's going. He's not making a good move.
Yeah.
It's like when someone moves to Washington, they're like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
Well, although here's what I'll say is we now have one of the highest cap spaces in the league. We have, like Curtis said, we have 5 picks in the top 50. We have 9 picks overall. Wait, is it 5 in the top 50?
5 in the
Top 100.
first 3
First 2
rounds,
days, yeah.
and 3 in the first 50.
There you go.
Does that make us the Yankees of the NFL.
Well, but what it does make us
Let's not
is
draw that
attractive
comparison.
to a
Very-
new GM
Yes,
and
absolutely.
coach. It
Well,
makes us
Exactly.
attractive.
and can I add one more thing to it? Because
Please.
I'm going to counter what Eddie said earlier. The other thing I think that makes us attractive. So you've got all these great draft picks to look at, licking your chops there. You've got a lot of salary cap, and you've got an up and coming quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a reason a coach might keep Sam Howell in place. I can
I
build
agree.
around
I,
this
I
guy.
can agree with that. I can.
You know what I'm saying? And what Tico said about coaches is definitely true of quarterbacks. Quarterbacks aren't easy to find. You know,
Yes.
and here's a kid who's really proven himself this year against some pretty tall odds.
Yeah.
I think there, and Bradley and I heard a take on this, you know, that helped lead me to this kind of take on it. But
Who
that
is it by? Make sure to shout him out.
our buddy Louis T. We like to listen to Louis T. And he's good at breaking these games down. And Bradley texted him, right? You sent in a message asking
Mhm.
about Sam Howell, and that's what he said. You know, quarterbacks aren't easy to come by. You know, so if you're coming into a new team and you want to rebuild, if you've got somebody you can build around,
Yeah.
you're already taking your first
Yeah.
step. You know,
Right. And as you're rebuilding, I think you're right. I didn't think this through well enough, so I can retract that. But I think when you have a great quarterback potential like Sam Howell, you're going to want him to be learning with a good offensive line at the same
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Sure.
So that
Yeah.
as he progresses, he's learning how to progress with the right people in place. Because you know what's going to happen if the ownership brings in a new general manager and then a new team and everybody else, all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're not going to do that West Coast offense anymore. We're going to do this other
Yeah.
West
Yeah.
double
Right.
offense. And then Bieniemy, everything that he learned under that regime is going to change again. So
He's got to learn.
that's
a
what
new
I
Yeah.
heard. I see as the hurt part of it, but
So to take that even further, and someone may have to correct me, but it's also a resume builder to be like, okay, I see this young kid and he's kind of having his struggles with Washington. You know, he's been sacked 40 times. If I can get in there and I can, you know, maybe it's a quarterback's coach, maybe it's an offensive line coach, maybe it's an offensive coordinator. If I can get in there and make him really, really productive, and I see the potential. You know, Matt LaFleur, I believe, was the quarterback's coach for Washington when Kirk Cousins was around, or was it Sean McVay?
I think it was
They were both
Or
on
was
the
it
team.
Shanahan?
Both.
They were
Yeah.
all on the team. I forget.
Yeah.
One of those guys was the quarterback's coach.
think it was
That
LaFleur.
type of role.
LaFleur.
Was it LaFleur? Okay, so LaFleur, that role, developing a young quarterback is a resume builder, like by far. If you say I built Sam Howell to be a franchise quarterback, to be a Pro Bowler, to be a future Hall of Famer, I mean, those are, you know, best case scenarios. But if you
Grandiose.
that's on your if that's on your resume, that is attractive. You know,
So
that is very
so
cool.
so what about this, Bradley? So if that is a huge resume builder,
Mhm.
who gets the credit for developing Sam Howell, especially with this offensive line?
Bieniemy and Rivera.
Well, one of them I don't think is going to be around.
I
Yeah.
think
So
both
this
are
is-
going to be gone.
Do you
this-
still think that Eric Bieniemy's going to be around?
No.
Oh heck yeah!
If
I
Sam
don't know.
Howell, if Sam Howell develops, just think about what you just said.
Yeah.
If that's a big resume builder,
Mm-hmm.
and this is probably why Eric Bieniemy took the job.
Yes,
Mm.
I agree.
If
One of the
this is
big reasons.
a big resume builder, and you have a franchise that says to Rivera, "Hey, you know what? Thanks for getting us here, but we need to move to the next level."
Mm-hmm.
You have somebody that's already in the system that has groomed your quarterback. That relationship is paramount.
Right.
Mhm.
He
So they'll
could
take the
slide
whole
right in
section
there.
out. They would
Well-
take the whole section and go, is what you're saying.
Right. Right.
So if they do that,
Right.
then it's like, oh, now like Bieniemy can be the head coach that he really wants to be.
Well,
It can be the head coach.
you know, it's interesting. I heard this earlier this week too, or maybe it was just today.
Interesting.
This is one of the best arguments I've heard so far for let Ron go right now. Let Ron go.
Oh, and let
Put
Bieniemy run it.
Bieniemy as the interim coach. See what you got. You got half a season to determine, do I want to keep this guy or not?
You can call plays and be head coach at the same time. Everybody does.
Absolutely. you
That's
know,
That's
I would
probably what he
say,
wanted to
for
do.
me, that would be a terrible idea.
You know
this te-
what? I think you're.
why is
Yeah,
it a
I wanna
terrible
hear
idea,
Up
Tico?
here.
I wanna
This
hear
think
that.
he's
this
gonna take
team
it and
has
go.
had so much transition over the last 20 years.
You
It's
think?
one of the Achilles heels of this team is that it's in constant
Yeah.
churning mode. There's no stability. Whether people like Belichick or not, or whether they're like Mike Tomlin or not, the thing about Pittsburgh and even Belichick without Brady is that you always know the potential to go all the way is there, and it's a stabilizing force.
Yeah.
You know,
We don't have either one of those
Philosophy is
guys.
there.
Yeah, I
The
was
We don't have
gonna say,
philosophy
Belichick.
of
We don't
how
have a
they do-
Belichick or a Brady. So
Do you feel that potential with Ron that we have the potential to go all the way?
of course, he's been to the Super Bowl before. You don't just get Super
I don't feel
Bowl
that at all.
appearances and coaches. You don't get. We got Jack Del Rio's been to a Super Bowl
I'm
as
not buying
as a
it.
D coordinator. Ron's been to a Super Bowl, and Bieniemy's been to a Super Bowl. It's a
Few of
certain
them.
pedigree, and a certain mentality to say you've been there, and especially with Eric. If I would not change anything this year, with so many changes, new quarterback, a shaky offensive line, that offensive line is going to get a little bit better as the season goes along. By the end of the year, they will have had a certain amount of experience together that they didn't come into the season with. They'll be
I'm-
more familiar with the plays that Eric Bieniemy has, because he's coming from Patrick Mahomes. He's bringing that vibe into a ghetto, a ghetto neighborhood, and it's different.
I'm just saying, and look, everything's going to change anyway. We know that. And I'm not ready to throw away the season, but I do think the goals of the season have maybe changed. I think, developing Sam Howell, I think we talked about that last week, is a huge goal of the season. And maybe seeing what you got in Bieniemy might be a goal as well, because it is a foregone conclusion. I disagree with you, Tico. It's a foregone conclusion with Ron Rivera, and it was very evident by the moves that were made today.
And that's what I want to ask you, Tico. So you're saying that you don't agree that changes need to be made this season. Do you not agree with the changes that were made today? Trading away Chase Young and Montez Sweat?
When you're making a trade and you're trying to get some draft capital, you got to look at your squad and say, who's valuable enough that somebody wants. So we don't know if San Francisco made a call and say, hey, we need some help on our defensive line. Can you spare anybody? We're willing to give this away. And you go, you know what? We got Payne, we got Jonathan Allen, we got some good backup defensive linemen.
Yeah, but Tico, we've been on
Yeah.
these negotiations have been going on since week one. Don't think that they were
Well, we don't know when they started, how they started, or who called who first.
well in advance.
But
until-
Tico-
But we know that they're playing chess. NFL is a chess game.
Yeah.
And it's you're just a property to them. And so in order to get something, you got to give something. And Chase was not, his productivity over his career so far, because of the injury, is not so amazing that we have to keep him. And he's not so damaged that he has no worth anymore. So somebody made a decision. We can get something for him right now before he gets hurt
the
again.
knee durability was
you
the
know,
issue. Third round. knee
It's
durability.
everybody keeps saying durability, but he's been able to play after his injury, and many players are able to continue on after the injuries at varying levels of success. But he has not had a recurring injury. People say he's injury prone. It was a major injury that he had,
Yeah.
And he had to
came
recover.
back from it.
He could be golden. He had to recover, and he's still not.
He has to recover,
100%.
and he's got 5 sacks.
Yeah, he's doing
So
great.
and that's big. That's a trading. That's enticing. And with Montez Sweat, he didn't come in with the same cachet that Chase has, but he has been productive.
He got
for the
elevated in
organization.
value.
He has been
Consistent is a greater
consistently
word for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
consistent, and
And a
he's
freak
had
athlete.
a freak athlete. So he's got some value. We need
Yeah.
some help on that
He was
old line.
hoping-
So
Look, I'm
Montez
not.
Sweat was hoping for Atlanta. You know that.
All I'm saying,
Mhm.
Tico, is you said that in the middle of the season we shouldn't get rid of Ron Rivera because it will add too much transition. Are you saying that this isn't going to add that much transit? This is definitely going to shake up our defense in a very significant way. And my question to you is, what's the difference between trading away 2 players and then getting rid of a coach who, in my mind, is gone at the end of the season? I know we disagree with that, and trying to see what you have in Eric Bieniemy.
because a coach leaving is totally different than a player leaving. A player could get hurt at any point in the season, and the
Okay, good
next
point.
man has to step up. To bring in
Good
a
point.
coach, you're talking about systems.
Yep.
It's
Talking
more
about
disruptive. Yeah.
leadership. You're
Yeah.
talking about a father figure. You're talking about these people are used to Ron Rivera being a dad-like figure in
Papa
teaching them.
Rivera,
Yeah. So it's
Alzheimer's.
he
Okay.
brought a certain stabilization to this organization that Jay Gruden did not have. That's
Agree.
huge.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
huge.
It's
And
like saying Trump
leadership,
is
the
worse than
respect that-
Biden.
That he has is every coach doesn't have that. So
Agree.
I think we as fans, we're quick to say, get him out of there, get him out of there, get him out of there. And that's what Snyder did throughout his whole career with this team. It was a revolving door of coach. How many coaches have we had since he was here? How many quarterbacks have we had since he was here? It's
More
nothing.
than anyone in the league.
We've had nothing stable.
But my thing on that, sometimes though, just because you're familiar with it doesn't mean it's the right thing.
Yeah.
I think with Rivera, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a team that's going to start off slow.
Right.
At the end of the year, they're going to dig a hole big enough that they cannot get out of. And by the end of the year, the only thing they're going to do is get in worse draft position and miss the playoffs.
Right, just throw in the towel right now.
You know what you know what you get with him.
Yeah.
He is a 500 coach over his
At
career.
best. Mhm.
That's what he is. And sometimes you have to you get a coach in there to stay. We needed someone to stabilize under
100%.
Snyder.
Yeah.
He's done what he needed to do. Now you need someone to go past that. Push past that's not making the gaps. That's not going to just get us 500. We need somebody that's going to push us over the top so that we're in the same conversations with the 49ers and the Phillies, with these top teams. I just think that you know that there's a cap to Rivera. There's a cap to him. And like I said, we want more than that. We deserve more than that.
Yeah.
Transitional
well
Ron.
said. Well said.
Ron
Chris.
was transitional.
Right.
Transitional.
He
phase.
served his person.
And he did well in that transition.
Yeah,
did
that,
good.
that hope that
Going
I'm
through
feeling.
cancer. You got to look at him
yes.
overcoming his
True.
cancer.
That's
Very
right.
true.
Now
And that
he's
was
starting
very
to get his
motivational.
stride back again.
He's a good man. He's a good man.
He's
And
a
So
good
that's
man.
the metaphor. You're right.
He brought in Bieniemy.
You're right, because you know what that
Yeah.
is. I talked about the tumor of Snyder. He came in and saved the day by getting the key. He was the chemo. He really was.
Right.
Well,
And now, unfortunately, he's still going through the pains and the months of anguish
I-
because he was just the transitional guy.
I think that hope that that is the team
Yeah.
is credit to Ron for building a team that is good enough to stand toe to toe with the Eagles.
Yeah.
What is kind of a bummer is that he's not.
Right.
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 Yeah. If it wasn't for a stupid play calling, I would say keep him on. But I'm sorry. I think it's got to be something going on. He's smoking the pipe.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so all this craziness, we still have a game going on this week.
Right.
Can
Can I say one thing before we
I
get
was
on?
going to say, before we do, I think that you read my mind. We have one more kind of big thing that happened this week.
Oh, I was going to say maybe it's not the same thing, but I think it is.
Two things.
Well, maybe it is. Because it's another. We talked about Josh Harris making these moves.
Yep, it's the same
These
thing.
big moves. And before these trades, he made another big move, and I don't have the guy's name at my fingertips, but he hired an analyst. I looked it up earlier. he hired a guy who specializes in analysis, and
Shen begins with an S. I
Shen.
can't remember.
Eugene Shen, yeah,
Shen,
Eugene
There it
there
Shen,
it
is.
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Good, Curtis, thank you. And I didn't know the name, but when you read about him, he's got some experience and he's got some smarts, and it was just like, okay, Josh Harris, this is kind of the first
Yeah.
step for Josh Harris, like reshaping this team,
Mhm.
and then right on the heels of it, he makes these two moves with the opening up the salary cap and getting the draft picks, and it's like, okay, we're starting to maneuver now. This chess game that Tico's talking about, I think I agree with you. It is a chess game, and Josh Harris is starting to take control of that. And again, because I don't like the Dan Snyder approach, or the even what's the Cowboys coach named
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones, that meddling approach, and I think Josh Harris is smart enough not to meddle.
That's the cancer.
He strikes me as the kind of guy who hires people that are smart enough to let them do their job,
Yeah.
and so, but anyway, it was nice to see him making moves that look like, I think Curtis said it best. Now we'll have some adults running the show now.
Yeah.
And look, also, everybody always looks at the head coach, right? Sometimes, there's a whole team on the sidelines that the head coach is coaching. And that's people like Juan Castillo, Luke Del Rio. There's always a son of one of the coaches in there that we've never even heard of before. Didn't even know he had a son. Did you know Luke Del Rio was the assistant quarterbacks and offensive quality control coach?
Mm-hmm.
Curtis,
did anybody know that?
Yep.
I know Curtis did.
Oh yeah.
Bradley,
Kyle Shanahan.
you and Curtis are on the same level.
What about Kyle? What about
Bradley
Kyle
just
Shanahan?
stepped
Right?
away. Yeah, Kyle
Oh, he
Shanahan was the coach's son. That's right.
Exactly.
So you're
got
talking about
Ryan
nepotism here. Where are
Kerrigan
we
is-
going with this?
Well, this is a whole team. You got almost 20 some people that are really responsible for these little areas. We have a woman who's our assistant running backs coach.
She gets a lot of
Right,
she gets
right,
press.
right.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
want to
Jennifer
see her
King.
go.
Jennifer King.
Okay.
But what are you
you-
saying, Tico? The buck
I'm
stops
saying-
at the head coach.
Well, the
I
head
mean,
coach,
he's ultimately
is also
responsible.
coaching these other people, and
Okay.
sometimes it's a piece or two that's in that coaching collective that needs to be tweaked. And we just look at the head coach because that's the one we know. That's the one that's out front. That's the one we think that should catch the bullet. And it's not always true for me.
So
If
who's
there's some-
responsible for putting together that staff?
The coaches, the general manager.
No, it's one coach.
Yeah.
That person is also the general manager.
Yeah.
He is in control of everything.
Yeah.
So and
he
he's
might
even
hire
said
somebody.
the buck
He might
stops
hire
with me.
somebody. Yeah, he might. Have you ever hired anybody like a plumber or an auto mechanic, an agent, somebody you thought, or gone to a job that you thought was going to be XYZ, and you get there, and after a couple of weeks you go, wow, this is not what I thought it was. It's no different in the National Football League. And to get
Here's-
all these pieces in order, it's a task.
Here's what you said is key. In 2 weeks, you realize that person wasn't for it's 4 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You cannot keep doing the same thing. You can't start the season off slow like that. Dig a hole so big, have the defense look like they're the worst in the league, and then they finally catch it and get on. At a certain point, you have to make changes. And I think Ron Rivera, he's a great guy. But I think one of his faults is he's too loyal to some of the
Yeah.
people that he should have gutted out. So now if I make the decision I'm going to stick with them, then it comes back on me. It comes back
Yeah.
on me.
You talked
Yep.
about something earlier, Tico. You were like, "There's no dog on this defense that's calling the plays. That's calling the defense. That's the mentor." And I feel that way about a lot of our team. Like you hear about these
Offense
dogs.
too, really.
Yeah. You hear
Yeah.
about these dogs, Micah Parsons, Sauce Gardner, like dog, really dog. Like guys hitting dudes. Ray Lewis was a dog. our guys are Boy Scouts. They're nice guys.
Yep.
They go up and they shake someone's hand when they punch him in the mouth. Like it's just there's not a dog mentality. And Ron has brought in like a respectable team, a respectable staff, some gentlemen, which is a huge step up from the dirt bags that we had.
Terry's a
before
dog.
Ron.
We got one dog that's for sure.
Terry-
and that's Terry.
Terry
Terry
is a
McLaurin.
dog with a bow tie.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
when he
like,
talks
he's
to the
a
staff,
sweet
though,
dude.
he's a puppy dog when he
with
talks
bow
to the
ties.
media.
Terry is a dog whose parents dress him up as a butler for Halloween. Like
right.
he's a dog, but like he's a sweet dude. Like
He
he's
flips,
a
he
nice
flips
guy.
when he
Scary,
gets on the
Terry.
field.
All
Yeah.
I'm saying is
He's only scary.
my
I
whole
get you.
point
I feel
is
you.
there's
feel you.
no it's
No,
it's
he's
like a
not.
lot of puppy barking, and Ron isn't a dog. He hasn't hired dogs. He's hired
Yeah.
nice guys. Dan Quinn, the Lions head coach,
Yeah.
those guys look like they got the biggest Bart, and they got brains behind their heads too. I mean, Mike
They're
McDaniel
pit bulls, and
look-
we're like
yeah.
Yorkshire Terriers.
Y'all see that
Mike
game last night?
McDaniel-
Y'all see that game last night?
Mike McDaniel doesn't look. He looks like a puppy, but man, when he barks, you close. You go to the other side of the street. You know what I mean? Like that's a scary
and
dog.
You're right. You're right.
That
And-
stray
and,
homeless dog that you don't think you're afraid of.
That he's foaming at the mouth. And
Is
it's
that
like,
you making all that big noise?
So all I'm saying is it
Mhm.
looks like Ron has to Curtis, to Tico's point, it's just like we just don't have that mentality that like
No, we don't.
kill
we
or
don't.
be killed. It's like
Yeah.
let's
don't.
make sure that when they beat us,
All right. I
they feel
concede.
good.
I concede.
we help them up when we hit them down.
I concede.
He's waving the white flag.
Okay, so
Okay, let's
we're
move.
it's getting late.
It's getting late, and we got another
Yes.
game to talk
Yeah.
about.
Let's
We have a game on
let's
Sunday.
let's say goodbye to my cousin and thank him for coming in.
Oh, it's great having you here,
Appreciate you,
Curtis.
man.
Great
Thanks for
being
your
here, guys.
contributions. Great
Absolutely.
stuff.
Great
pleasure.
guys.
Thank
Yep.
you so much.
Maybe we'll see you in
No
a few
problem.
weeks after
Yeah.
our. a
We'll
big
see you
game
soon.
like
Absolutely.
Dallas.
Anytime.
We haven't hit Dallas
Anytime.
once yet.
Uh,
We gotta
Oh.
win on Thanksgiving. We'll have you in.
Oh,
for
yeah,
There you go.
definitely.
I think we'll
Definitely.
definitely have Curtis back. We really appreciate you, man. That was
Absolutely.
a lot of fun.
Definitely.
We'll be kick
Yep.
ass, gobble gobble.
Absolutely. Absolutely, fellas.
All right,
right.
man. Love you,
All right,
man.
man.
Oh,
Talk to you
okay.
again.
Love you too. All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Enjoy it, man.
All right, so we have a game on Sunday against New England Patriots, and Tico we were talking about Belichick is one of the best coaches that you always feel like, even though this is one of their worst, or actually the worst record since
Yeah.
Belichick has been the head coach, it always feels like they could pop. And guess what? They beat the Bills 2 weeks ago.
Yep. and
I
we're just a
I
team.
never am comfortable around. I mean, this is new without Brady still,
Yep.
but I don't feel comfortable.
I don't. Our MO this season has been play really well and then
Yep.
play really bad.
Yep,
Play
Yep.
really well,
it's true.
play really bad. We played really well against the Eagles the first time, then we played the Bears. We played the Atlanta, played pretty well, played the Giants. We played Philly, looked pretty good. Now we're playing New England. This is the time to break the pattern. If we
Yeah.
have any chance of getting to the Super Bowl, which guess what? We're one game behind the guy in front of us who is in the playoffs right now. If we look at the playoff picture right now, which
Yeah.
is Minnesota, and I think someone else is definitely 4-3. Or sorry, 4-3.
4-3.
We're 3 and 5.
We're 3-5. So
How are we?
4 and
anywhere-
4.
4-4. 4-4. Yeah.
We have
There's
no
got-
division wins. How do we get there? Explain that to me.
What do you mean?
We
He
have no
just
division
means
wins.
wins and losses. Because
Yeah.
you're
We're
right.
not-
The
The division,
tiebreakers would be.
the division's out. We're not winning the division.
Yeah, he's talking wild card spot.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the
well,
That's why
seventh-
he's saying
I mean,
Minnesota.
I would even say that, the four best teams, right? Philly, Niners, NFC North is going to be the Lions. NFC South is still up for grabs. But then it will be the Cowboys has a
Mhm.
spot. And then probably maybe the Seahawks, maybe the Vikings, maybe the Rams, maybe the Saints,
it gets muddy
Tampa Bay, it
then
gets
at
muddy
that
there.
point. It gets
But
cloudy.
we're
Yeah.
in that conversation.
That's why there's hope because it's in that cloudy part. Yeah.
That cloudy part. The Rams, the Seahawks, the Vikings. We are in that mix still. We are still in that mix. The Vikings are 4-3. I know that because they've had a bye.
Right.
That we are still in that mix. So these are the type. If we want one of those spots, we have to win games like this. We have to break the pattern of playing really good against a great team, and then playing really bad against a bad team.
Why
need
is
to
this
play
considered
really
a bad
great
team?
against a bad team.
This is only a bad team because of their record. It's Belichick.
Well, who else is on the field, Eddie? It's not just Belichick. It's a
I
full
know.
team.
I know
There's
his team is a
53 guys
mess,
on the
but
roster.
what do we do? What do we do when we go against bad teams? We play down to their level.
Agreed.
So just like the Giants, we're going to waltz in there. We don't have anything to play for. We just got gut punched in the stomach because we lost our two best defensive guys to other teams, and now everybody in the locker room is thinking that the ownership's throwing away the season and they don't have to play, and we're not going to play. I guarantee you we're going to lose.
Well, we know how Eddie feels.
I'll give you my commandment right now. Fuck everything. They're throwing in the season. That's what's happening.
So what's the commitment?
So what's the commandment?
Is don't get I command you, no, thou shalt not believe in the Washington Commanders for this season.
Okay. All right.
By the way, you have this picked as a win, Eddie.
I know, but that was before I knew that we were going to lose.
Well, it's just shit changes throughout the season.
So
but-
I think I'm a little bit more hopeful of this game. I think that there was definitely a spark that happened in Philly. I do agree with you, Eddie. If we were going on what happened the rest of the season, this season's over, right? We lose to this team. But I also look at past years. This is around the time where Ron Rivera seems to get his shit together and we start winning games. So
he's trying to get another job somewhere.
I don't know, but all I'm saying
Retired,
is it
dude.
seemed that Eric Bieniemy figured something out last week, and we've said that in the past. Well, I don't know. Have we? It felt like this game, that game, he figured out what we need to do to score a lot of points.
Against Philly,
a lot of points.
Only against Philly.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean that story won't that whole game plan and that strategy, whatever they did as a team, whatever we did against Philly is going to be a totally different dialed up scheme for our week against Belichick. It's going to be different, and it's not going to be the same. We're not going to do the same aggressive pass playing. I don't think we're probably going to do something else. And I don't know if you could just apply what you did at Philly and go into
copy paste it.
I agree.
I don't think it's going to be the exact same.
That's why we lost to New York. We lost to New York because we couldn't do what we did to Philly. We matched up properly. I don't know why it does, but I think that's what it is. Because how else could we play against these guys? They're statistically, Philly was better than us on every single aspect of our stats, and we held them again 2 games in a row.
I mean, you're bringing up great questions, Eddie. You're right. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense the way that this team is being run, and that's why I believe that this is a real huge coaching issue more than a player on the field issue. Is it feels like we have the personnel to actually put up points, win games, or at least stay close in games, and we haven't done it to bad teams. That's why I believe, and I'll put this as my commandment. How about that? I'll put this as my commandment. Thou shalt have a game plan similar to Philly and copy and paste it against the Patriots. Obviously, I don't think that we should, copy and paste because they're different teams. I think we should scheme. But the identity of the scheme against Philadelphia was get the ball out of Sam Howell's hands quickly. That was the offensive scheme. I mean, genuine, like the first half, that was it. And then the second half, they started creeping up and we started hitting them deep, and there were blown coverages. We were able to get points. We were able to get yards. That needs to be the scheme every week. Because if
that works, if it doesn't work, then they're going to change it. And it takes us 2 quarters to figure it out. And then we do nothing in the third quarter because we still haven't figured it out. And then in the fourth quarter, we almost make a miraculous, but we're too late.
You guys help me to hear what it sounds like when when all hope is lost. You know what? One of the things that Kansas City does really well is throw the ball a lot.
Mhm.
And Andy Reid was never a big running offense. And I don't know how much Eric Bieniemy is taken from him and how much is his own desire to do his thing. But you know, the ball goes down the field a lot quicker when you throw it. And this idea of that everybody talks about a balanced offense, that's an era gone by. This is a passing league to me right now. And we got the receivers to do it. We don't ever have to run. And we
Really?
could win, we could win games. We don't have a great running game. We don't have great running backs.
I don't know how you can say that. What about Robinson? What about-
Robinson has not proven to be a great running back yet. He's had some nice screen passes where he's done really well. He's a tough kid, but he's not elusive. He's, you know, he's a strong guy. But we don't have the offensive line for a great running game.
Mhm.
Just like we barely, so that might be another phase that come after we get this protection piece that we did really well on this week against Philly. But we got to get out there, get out early, and keep hitting them. We got to score and score often, and keep them. Last year when we beat Philly, we kept them off the field with the balanced attack,
Right.
but somehow the line was better.
So
Here's what
Maybe you're
I'll
right.
say
Maybe
about
we go
this
to a
game.
full-on development of Sam and make him pass a lot to get really good. Because
Then
they're
we can
planning
open
on
up maybe
keeping.
the game, the
Try
ground
to
game.
try to mold him to be the best passer he can. Let him throw as many interceptions as he wants. God forbid, try to protect the guy so you don't ruin him, but let him get protected and let him throw. And who cares if we win or lose? We're going to find out a lot about Sam. We'll make a better decision if we need to replace him and the entire organization gets overturned. But right now, I don't know if the team's heart isn't trying to win the Super Bowl. Like,
It's
it's
always
just-
it's always trying to win the Super Bowl. I think any NFL team is always trying to win the Super Bowl. I think it's crazy if to say that that the guys on the field at least are not trying to win the
Yeah,
Super Bowl. And
but their focus is winning this game.
This game.
Right. And I think on any given Sunday, it's winning this game. And I think every guy who steps on that field is his heart is in winning this game. No matter what happened the past week, you know, you got a couple of defensive ends who are going to step up, and Casey Toohill and JSW, I can't remember the other guy's name,
James
or
Smith Williams.
James Smith, you know, like there's an
And our two
opportunity for them,
rookies.
I will
opportunity
predict
for them
our,
to step up, you know.
I will
No
predict
question.
our defense plays lights out without those two guys and just
Well,
show them that we didn't.
And they can't get much worse, as Bradley pointed out. We're 31st in the league, so there's not much room to move downhill.
Nowhere to
Before I
move
give
it up.
my commandment, Tico, it sounded like you were kind of formulating a commandment there. Did you have a commandment around what you
Well,
were?
I was just going to say Sam Howell on the ESPN chart, as far as passing goes, Sam is number 6.
Yeah.
He's up there. He's up there.
And against all the adversity he's been facing.
Yeah,
He's been sacked
Supposedly-
40 times. Think
40
what
times,
here
and he has no O line supposedly. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I think he's doing great, but
41 now.
It's
hope they
funny
keep him.
because Tico, I think that you are very sound in your analysis for this week because we are not playing Jalen Hurts. They do not have AJ Brown on their team. They
Right.
do not even have DeAndre Swift. They have Ezekiel Elliott, who's old and slow. And they don't have an O-line like the Eagles do. If we put up 31 points against New England, we will win this game.
We should have a
We
good
better.
chance.
I mean, I don't see New England putting up 38. I mean,
And if we-
you know,
X
who
factor
knows?
is-
Yeah.
the only
didn't
X
think the
factor
Bears
is
could put us-
Belichick, though.
So that leads me to my. No, I'll go ahead and
Perfect.
give and give my commandment because you talked about the offense, Bradley, and I agree with you. If the offense plays the way they did last week, we're golden. I think what killed us last week is the defense couldn't hold them. We allowed 38 points, and as Curtis mentioned earlier, it could have been a 50 burger. So.
Yeah.
We got to get off the field on third downs. You know,
Mhm.
it wasn't a lot of huge chunk plays. They were moving the ball down the field and picking up first downs, and the defense has to get off the field. Thou shalt not let them convert on third down. That's
They
my
come at
that's my
the
command.
because they come at the worst times.
Yeah, and it's
We do
third and
good,
long
we
a
do
lot.
good. It's third and like
You're like,
14.
Oh, you got third and 12. We got third and
17.
10.
Oh,
That we should hold them
boom.
here.
We put them
But-
in bad positions a lot. We get them in third
Yeah.
and long a lot, but we just can't.
But
Yeah,
just remember,
and
you're,
yet we
you're
can't.
playing against AJ and Jalen, so it was the Jalen and
And
AJ
Devontae Smith
show.
and
So
and
it
all
should
we
be
had-
different.
Kelsey
But
and
I'm gonna give
Bogdan.
you.
Played
I'm gonna
pretty
give you a
good.
name. I'm gonna give you a name you guys probably never heard of.
Okay,
Brent Vesselmeyer.
Wait,
correct.
hold on.
Never heard of him. Oh, wait.
Bradley might get it.
I-
Who's
I-
Brent Vesselmeyer?
Is that Brent Musburger's brother?
Vesselmeyer.
It's his cousin.
Brothers
All
don't
you're
share
gonna
the
have to
first
give
name.
it to me. I don't know it.
He's been our defensive backs coach for 4 years.
And your point being,
Who the heck is he?
really?
Yeah,
That's what
he
we were
hasn't
gonna
done a good
ask
job.
next.
That's why nobody knows his name.
Our defensive backfield has not been
Right.
solid ever.
I'm saying.
Are
And
you sure
nobody
it's
knows
been
who he
4
is.
years?
4 years. This is his 4th season with Washington.
Hey guys, where are we at with
Hey,
the
And look, before he
total?
came to Washington, he was the head coach for St. Margarita Catholic High School.
Well, there's a
They were
pickup
good,
for
I
you.
heard. I heard they were good.
Just saying. I don't know. He may
All
be
right. All right, Tico, give us your commandment. We gotta wrap this puppy
Val
up.
shall really investigate Brent Vesselmeyer.
That's a hell of a commandment. I like that. So specific too.
I'm gonna ask our audience. Put your commandments down in the comments, and we want to see what you guys have to say. What do you think is the key to winning against New England this weekend?
Cutting Belichick at the
So, Tico, do you remember
Yes.
Chris Harris?
Mm-mm.
That's who I thought our DB coach was, but maybe it was just because we gave him to the Titans, and he's now the defense's pass game coordinator / cornerbacks coach. So maybe he was just the cornerbacks coach.
Mm,
That's who I thought should have been elevated to defensive coordinator, and Jack Del Rio should have been fired. We should have given Chris Harris a job because he was great. There was a video going around, maybe it was last year, of him like getting really hyped in training camp, and it kind of went viral a little bit of him getting really excited that there was a big hit or something. So Vesselmeyer, maybe I thought he took Harris's spot, but maybe it was that they were working together and we let Harris go. But yeah, we need to look into who this guy is.
We need to go into.
Look,
we need to go deep into the coaching staff.
as fascinating
Travell
as the no-name coaches are, I think. Go ahead, Tico. I want to let you finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Travell Wharton has been with us for he's.
You're giving us another
I love
no-name
you,
coach.
no.
All right.
That's
All
right.
right.
Because see,
Where are we at?
it's too easy to say it's just Ron Rivera's
The
fault.
listeners are
having-
We gotta
dropping
go
off.
in
The
there.
I'm
listener-
having so much fun though.
I know, but listen,
Okay,
listen, you
yeah, I
guys.
know. We're
I
getting
think
out-
our
I'm fighting
listeners
for it.
are
I'm
the
fighting for it.
average Joe. It's
gotta get out of here.
it's not the guys that
Dig deep.
We can
dig
talk
dig
about this
deep.
later.
I mean, it's good to
Travell
educate.
Wharton.
You know, we'll
Travell
bring up some
Wharton,
names people haven't
He's
heard,
the
but
offensive lines
it's
coach.
time. It's time to.
Okay.
We're getting the signal from
We
the
have a
producers now.
big- yeah,
My
yeah, yeah.
broken foot is throbbing for an hour and a half.
Haley's
Let's go.
doing this. So
Yeah,
we gotta-
she's our producer. There you go.
So we had a really special guest on today. So I wanted to give a big shout out
Thank you,
to our boy
Curtis.
Curtis.
Thank you,
He was
Curtis.
amazing. We'll definitely have him on later, but we wanted to thank you for tuning
Wait a
in.
minute, hang on, Bradley. Bradley.
Okay.
Bradley,
Oh
you
boy.
just
Oh.
you just mentioned Chris Harris, right?
Yeah.
And what were you? He was the cornerbacks coach
Yes.
with Rivera.
Yeah.
Save it
Okay.
for later.
And,
Don't run away.
And
down,
what were you saying about him?
He was a good coach, and we should have elevated him to defensive coordinator.
Okay, got it.
All right.
I don't think he's on the team anymore.
Well,
No, he got
further
moved into
detail
the
after
title.
research.
Okay.
Do some research.
Thank
and
you
we'll
so
bring
much
that
for
back,
tuning
that
in.
topic.
To this episode of Command West. That's a wrap. We hope you had just as much fun listening as we did bringing you the latest and greatest on the Burgundy Gold. Please comment your commandment for this week's
New England game.
Give us your thoughts in the comments. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, and tune in next week. Peace.
See ya.